journey you are taking is not about following others. It's about being guided by signposts, getting you to where you want to go. And I would love to serve as that signpost.
The girl who used to pray before darkness destroyed her way. What happened to
This is a little story about how I stopped dieting and started healing. And I hope that this can serve as a new weight loss path for ADHD minds. Hi, and welcome to this reinvented space publication, the podcast. My name is Emma. I am a coach and creator. But before we go on, I just want to mention I don't believe in labels and limiting ourselves to any fixed identity, but I have a diploma in coaching and I love to talk about self-development, health, and also to share my journey, how I healed my years of eating disorders pattern with the help of a massive mindset shift that I was not fully conscious aware at the time. But the things that triggered that shift was my shift into a new low-carb approach. And this is a show of an ADHD woman. Once again, that is not who I am, but I have ADHD threads, and I will share my story, how I stopped chasing skinny and started to build something sustainable, both consciously and unconsciously. And my hope is that this can inspire you to heal your relationship with food if you have had a bad one throughout the years, and especially if you have ADHD or ADHD threats, you know how addicting it can be to get those quick dopamine fixes. And well, sugar is one very accessible source to that. But anyway, this space is not about the before and after photos, perfect plans, constant chasing of weight loss goals that keep moving. The weight loss goals that has almost become an identity. We always strive to lose a little bit more. Instead, I want this to be a place for something deeper and maybe something that you are ready for too. So if you feel stuck in a loop of starting over every Monday, every January, every new year, battling your brain, your cravings, and your closet, you are not alone. And you probably know this because you have probably done a lot of research and you see that there are other women out there chasing the same goals, having the same struggles, but yet it can be very lonely being caught up in this loop of our brain, of our mind. And I would say that especially if you have ADHD, because often we already don't fit into the frames of the so-called standards. And our go-to way to cope with that of not fitting in is the quick dopamine fixes that we get both from doom scrolling, but also from the very accessible source of sugar. And I think that the so-called rules, the so-called matrix, never worked for us. Honestly, I don't think that we are here to follow rules anyway, and not anymore. Because the thing with rules, the best diet, the best strategy, the best routine, they can support us. But the problem is that we start to identify with them. We are so conditioned to think that we should obey rules, and we have forgotten the very main course we started the rules in the beginning, to remind us of something, a philosophy and an intention. And well, before we dive any deeper, let me just say this. Yes, I do believe that any kind of low-carb diet probably is the best diet to eat because it is very similar to how I think our bodies were designed to eat in the first place. And there along goes fasting as well. We will not talk about that today, but just so you know, there will be probably some episodes about fasting as well, how it can help and support us. But I also want to say this. Here I share my personal notes, what has worked for me, my maybe challenges to inspire you, but also the challenges that I have faced and are facing. And I will never say like, this is the right approach. This is how the way to do it. I think that I tend to do that a little bit more when I discovered keto and low carb. I was like, this is how we should eat. I respected everyone who didn't believe it because they had their inherited and conditioned mind telling them that we should eat balanced. And for me, balance has always been such an abstract word, especially with ADHD. I mean, don't over this and over that. I mean, that is just so much for me fit in the box. And that has never been for me. That has always been my constant strive. But I will share you my personal tips. And as the role of the coach, I'm always here to guide and to serve you so that you can discover the answers that are real for you within yourself. But let me take you back a little bit in not the beginning, but in the starting, in the middle of my story. Because for too many years, I used to believe that discipline was the answer. More control, more restriction, more guilt. But that never brought me peace, just briefly, but it always led to exhaustion. That very exhaustion led me to turn to quick dopamine fixes. Hello, sugar cravings. And I've always had this inner sense, not always that clear, but that feeling good is not the reward of the end of the journey. Whatever that end looks like for you, whatever your goal is, if you want to lose weight, eat more healthier to sustain your and support your everyday life, regulate your sleep, whatever the goal looks like, it is not meant to bring us happiness in the end of reaching it. In the end of reaching it, feeling good is actually the beginning. The beginning to enjoy life, every step of it, but also to actually have the fuel and being equipped to actually reach that goal as well. And since I have for so many years unconsciously tried to cover all my flaws, not fitting in, always needing those quick dopamine fixes. I remember even as a just little child how I tried to hide that very fact that my brain was scanning for sugar, because even as a 7-year-old, I felt ashamed about it. And I also picked up on the cultural and my nearest environment's opinions of normal and how we all should just be able to be normal, eat anything but normal, not obsess eating or anything. And when I discovered the low carb diet, oh my God, it was like entering a new world, because I had always felt like I needed to depend on discipline and rules in order to keep my sugar cravings intact. And I remember even years before actually shifting to a more low carb approach, how a colleague of mine gave me a book called The Sugar Bomb in Your Brain. And I remember reading it. I felt so hit by everything in it, but also so hopeless. Like, if I cannot eat sugar, I mean, what's the point? That is not just my drug. It's how other people view fuel. That is what sugar is to me, to be able to go on with my days. It was both my relief, my reward, and the things that could bring me up when I was down and help me calm down when I was too hyper. And for me, that had developed this program of a kind of eating disorder. Yes, when I was younger, it was a lot about the weight, but even as I got older and was not that obsessive about the weight anymore, it still regulated my whole self-worth. I felt good when I felt in control of my diet, and I felt bad when I didn't feel in control. So when I say eating disorder, this is the pattern that I talk about. The mind-made pattern operating in my subconscious, defining my self-worth and so on. And for me, low carb was the liberation of all that, or at least the beginning of the liberation of all that. And on the outside, I looked much more obsessive about food, because I mean, hey, I have ADHD, or ADHD threads at least, and I can really be a nerd whenever I, get curious about something. So I talked obsessively about low carb diets and how it was the way we were designed to eat. So on the outside, people probably sense that she's obsessed about diet and foods. Maybe that looked more like an eating disorder program, and I understand it. But on the inside, I felt freer than ever because before, nobody could see my obsession about calories and food. It was all something that I hide. Talent and a skill that I have developed for many years of hiding how much I don't fit in the box of the matrix. And for me, keto was the liberation because for me, if it had like kind of a frame, it didn't feel like something that I had to measure. It felt flexible, forgiving, and focusing on nourishment and energy. I remember how I felt exactly this. I can eat whatever, quote, I want, whenever I want, and still lose weight or enjoy the weight that I'm currently at. And I felt so free. And my focus shift from instead of cutting everything out, it was about adding joy back in. And that small shift in my mindset helped me start rebuilding my relationship with food and with myself. For the first time, I felt like eating felt calm and that I was not chasing skinny, even if I became that, but I was choosing peace. And I felt that I could trust myself. And so for many years, I felt like, yeah, this is the diet for me at least. And I lost whatever extra pound, extra weight that I had. And I sustained it for years, enjoying my lifestyle. But well, then life happened, and so did the weight. After becoming a mom for the second time, my body changed again, and so did my routines. Like many women, like many moms out there, I slowly lost touch with one of the things regarding my habits, my physical habits that once kept me centered. The weight came back, but worse than that, worse than the kilos, was the fatigue brain fog, and well, some undealt with quiet shame. But also now, looking back at that very period, I feel grateful for that because I felt even if I really didn't see it at the time, was an era that I needed to dissolve even more the fractions still remaining regarding my eating disorder patterns. And I also remember even during these years how even if I didn't love the mirror, the image in the mirror, I still felt a sense of, yeah, but I feel like I am in a pretty good place despite not looking how I enjoy to look when it comes to my body apparel. But then last spring, 1 year ago, my body gave me the signs and forced me to stop, literally. I had this incredible back pain. Lumbago, I think it's called. And I have done that before. I have had that before, 1 week before my wedding actually, but this was something that really served me to actually face the lifestyle I was living and what it cost me. Not that I think that this back pain was caused to any additional weight, but it was a pointer, a mirror of my lifestyle, how I didn't invest that much in myself, at least not regarding my body anymore. And even if I don't think that we are the body, not even the mind, they are just instruments, the vehicles that we have for this life journey. They are still our most valuable assets to experience this life. And that's when I realized like I really need to take care of this temple, this vehicle for the ride. And this physical pain and reduce of my mobility to do what I normally do, it was a week of stillness serving as a wake-up call. I didn't know that I probably needed because it made me remember my old friend, the low carb plus soul food approach, because I had tried to go back to that more fully, but it was too easy to postpone the start. But this moment of pain led me to make a smarter and instant decision. One decision not just based on the long-term goal, but grounded in the present. And the question has always been, but became even clearer now: how can I feel good while returning to my ideal weight? And so, with some few modifications, lessons learned over the years, and a fresh perspective from my coaching diploma education year, I updated my approach. Not just to serve myself, but allowing it to serve others as well. And I realized that, okay, I don't need another rigid diet or brand new routine. The real answer is the questions, and that is the importance of the mindset and the approach and the perspective in everything in life, but also when it comes to diet and building supportive success habits. And I felt like if this feels so vibrant and true to me, maybe this can serve others as signposts as well. And here is my firm belief: whatever journey you are taking is not about following others. It's about being guided by signposts, getting you to where you want to go. And I would love to serve as that signpost. And as a quote coach, yes, I have a diploma, but as a coach, I really do believe that that is how we serve. Well, we can provide those signposts, giving away our guidance, our tips, our lessons learned. But the way that we serve best is to inspire, and that is when we intentionally use our high vibration, when we feel that intention in wanting to serve, but also work as guides by pointing you to the questions and the answers, not the questions, the answers already within you. So I will always say this: okay, this is my tips. This is what have worked for me. This is a strategy. This is a system. I hope you find it useful. Feel free to modify it, and always remember, it's about how you feel. If I give you a framework and you feel like, yeah, this actually feels pretty good, but I would say do it. It's always about how we feel. If we can find a way to apply any concept, any system in a way that it feels aligned in that given moment, that is the guidance that you need. I only work as the current carrier of that guidance, but you have the power and the answers already within you. And last summer, in my own approach, wanting to get back to that ideal weight, I created a before the plan, a mindset reset for women, and especially I would say if you have ADHD, but for whomever feel like they need that, understand that losing weight is not just about diet, it's about an inner shift, a mindset shift that makes us feel good about ourselves, our approach, and the choices that we make. And this short little book, anyway, is a powerful book, I think, that I created first and foremost for myself, but I also have a client that has used it and she speaks very good about it. And it's for anyone who is done with self-punishment, diet drama, and trying to fix ourselves. And it's not a weight loss plan. It is more like the first step towards sustainable and soul-aligned transformation, built on getting more clarity, compassion for yourself, and understanding how your unique ADHD brain actually works. If this sounds like something you want to check out, I will leave a link in the description. And here is one simple exercise from the book that you can try right now. And I do believe that question is the answers, and by actively applying questions in our everyday life, that will make us reach not only the answer, but the vibrant fuel that we need in order to get anywhere, to get to the goals that we want to achieve, but also, and this is the most important part, to enjoy the steps there. And enjoy the steps there does not always mean happy-go-lucky. You still probably will need to put in the work, the effort, the discipline, but you can still find a way to do that in a joyful, satisfying way, knowing why you are doing it and letting that why be your fuel. So this is what I want you to do. If you feel like you want to heal your relationship with food, but still have those extra kilos that you want to lose that weight maybe before the summer, I don't know, ask yourself this: what do you really want? What do you really want? And I'm not talking about brief moment of that image of the goal, but what does it feel like? Not the number on the scale, not the skinny jeans. Even if they can support you as well, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a good looking vehicle. Maybe you want to drive a Porsche for this life journey. There's nothing wrong with that. But more than so, what is the feeling? What do you want to feel when you are driving that vehicle? When you are moving your body, experience the different eras of life. And this is what you can do. Close your eyes just for a couple of moments and fill in this sentence. I want to feel, fill in the blank. What do you want to feel? So that I can and paint the picture of the current image of that goal that you want and bring it into the now. Let that be your guidance. What you want, that vibrant desire, not the guilt, not the pain, not the pressure, just your desire. That's your way in. That's your way in to tap into the fuel that will take you all the way and enjoy the entire journey there. So if you are ready to begin, if you are ready to stop chasing and start building supportive habits, I like to call them success habits, that will work for you and actually works with your brain, not against it, with your body and your values, this book is your starting place. I loved that you tuned in all the way to the end. And I do believe that if you did, the universe gives this to anyone ready for the message, but more than so, ready for the guidance within. If you felt like this served you, consider to subscribe to this channel on YouTube and join me on Substack, and I will send you weekly newsletters with self-coaching tips and prompts, and also share my own journey. And I really hope that we can build a community here for women who knows that wanting to lose weight doesn't define them, but they can still want to have that gorgeous ride for this journey. And I really hope to see you and hear from you soon.
I was so busy trying to protect my energetic emotions, and the eagles collect. I will loosen my track, loosen my flow. The fractions of a ghost I thought I used to know, but now I realize it has all been a scheme, projection of lies. What happened to the girl who used to pray before darkness destroyed her way? What happened to the path that shines so bright? Now the maze of demands stand those lights. What happened to the present that used to be so near? Now it's out of reach in a different atmosphere. What happened to the false cause we shouldn't